Today we're going to be going over the Final Fantasy XVI demo released today. For those of you wondering, the game is officially out on June 22nd of this year. Any progress that you do accomplish in the demo does carry over to the final release, and I will say the demo takes about 2.5 hours to complete, so it's probably in your best interest to complete that. Let's get into it. Man, oh man, I know Square Enix was inspired by Game of Thrones, but I didn't know how good this story was going to be. I'm actually not a fan when games go that political intrigue route with kings and queens and senates and councils being mentioned every other sentence in a story. And I'm happy to report so far from what I saw in the demo, the game doesn't beat your head in over with those things. Final Fantasy XVI takes its time developing the story. They'll introduce new characters with nice, long, detailed cutscenes, forcing you to just slow down and soak in the story. But don't worry, they'll break things up with action sequences, just as you'd expect. They hit you with how grand in scale the game is going to be right from the start. That moment for me was when the character you're controlling, Clive, has to navigate through the debris and rubble created by two icons battling in the air above you. Icons are this game's version of summons, as you would know them from other Final Fantasy games. That was this game's way of teaching you how to run and jump around the environments. Very well done. Once you get that down, the game immediately throws you into some combat. Now, I heard the game's combat is inspired by Devil May Cry, and I can definitely see that. And as you'd expect, Square Enix puts their own little Final Fantasy twist towards it. There are no light and heavy attacks here. Square pretty much takes care of all your melee attacks, with combos, for example, being press square 4 times. Above that, you got triangle, which handles your magic ability. The first magic ability you have is fire, so you can feel free to finish your combos with a nice blast of fire. Clive has been blessed with the ability to use icon powers in his human form. Press circle to unleash that icon's unique skill. And of course, the first skill that you do get is the ability to teleport across the battlefield towards an enemy and follow it up with an attack. So those are your basic offensive powers. Yep, there's no hybrid turn-based action here like you'd find in Final Fantasy VII Remake. The combat is pure action. And trust me, the combat does sound simple, and it is simple in the beginning, but there is enough here to mix and match and make things complex in the future, where you unlock other icon abilities. But we'll get into that. What kind of action game in 2023 would this be without a parry system? This game has 2 forms of blocking. It wants you to evade attacks right before they land, allowing you to follow that up with a counter, or you could go the more difficult route and strike an enemy as he strikes you, matching blows and following them up from there. And to be honest, I found matching blows to be difficult. Whenever I did pull it off, I did feel like it was by luck, so I stuck with just dodging out of the way. Here's where I would have to mention what I feel is this game's easy mode. This game allows you to equip up to 3 rings. Rings of Timely, to be exact. Rings of Timely Healing, Rings of Timely Evade, and Rings of Timely Focus. Each ring allows the game basically to assist you in healing, where it heals you automatically, the Ring of Timely Evade, which gives you an on-screen prompt to press R1 and evade that way, instead of doing it fluidly in combat. And honestly, I saw no drawbacks to using these. You didn't get healed any less, you didn't cause any less damage, so I mean, they're there. I would say use them instead of just making the game harder on yourself by not using them. If anybody knows any drawbacks to using these Rings of Timely, please let me know in the comments. Aside from that, you got your standard stuff like leveling up, upgrading skills, and menus for changing equipment and using and viewing items. Really quick, just to finish up what I noticed from the combat during this demo, we mentioned Clive's icon abilities earlier. The icon challenge mode is unlocked upon completing the demo. In this mode, Clive is a little bit more beefed up with 3 icon abilities, which he's able to cycle through during battle. I'm assuming this is how strong Clive can potentially be during the story at some point, and I'm glad they included this because in this mode you can see the true potential of combat. You see, during battle, you can press R2 to view 2 skills within a certain icon ability. Those skills provide massive damage towards enemies, and being able to swap through each icon essentially gives you 6 skills you can use during combat, in addition to just regular melee and magic abilities. One more thing I promise about combat is that there's a stagger meter for enemies here, which is your basic just attack them until you stagger them. Really no strategy involved, or at least I don't really apply any strategy to it. I'm gonna attack the enemies anyway. If they stagger, even better for me. I'll finish them off and I'll start to use my skills when they're in their stagger form. The graphics and voice acting are what's pushing this towards everybody feeling that this is going to be game of the year. Because let's be honest, we live in a time right now where games are releasing unfinished, poorly optimized, and with graphics so bad that you would think you were playing a last gen game. Final Fantasy XVI suffers from none of that stuff. Final Fantasy XVI gives you two graphic modes, quality and performance. Quality mode runs at 4K, 30 frames a second, upscaled from 1440p. Performance mode runs in 1440p, 60 frames a second, upscaled from 1080p. I chose to go with the quality or graphical mode, which ran at 30 frames a second, and it felt fantastic and it looked great with HDR on at 4K. I was worried that the medieval setting would look too dreary and get boring after a while, and for the demo I do think that they purposely left you inside of the castle walls, but even so the game is graphically impressive with good lighting and detail around every corner, making it for a good visual experience. Character models, especially the faces, are going to be some of the best character models and faces you'll find in any modern game. Follow that up with the flashy effects during combat, which do not slow down the game at all, and you're left with what is essentially a complete package in the visual department, enhanced by the stellar voice acting. Emotion, anger, and even some profanity are all executed perfectly by the voice actors.
So, they sent in the dragoons. Imperial vipers. Do they really mean to invade us?
Not yet. Their numbers were too few. They were not here to take the castle. They were here to take heads.
I can't wait to dive more into this game. The demo definitely left me wanting more. Like I said, the game comes out June 22nd. I hope I did a good job of covering the demo for you guys and not spoiling too much. Hey, there were some things I just had to mention. If you made it this far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It really supports me. Like, comment, all of that good stuff. I'll see you when the full game comes out. Hey, be safe. See you on the next one.